Speaking of generations, I'm a child of the television generation. I saw a portrayal of dads as guys who always gave their kids lectures when they were called for. In the book, you recommend that dads have regular heart-to-heart chats with their children. How's that differ from the old lecture?
Oh, that's good. That's a very good distinction. Wait till your father gets home.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yes. Okay. So, well, I'm the sort of divorced generation, or the latchkey kid, Generation X, and which I think is significant in that I think a lot of my generation, we're all, a lot of us are becoming dads now, or have been dads for a little while, are very committed to not having our kids grow up with divorce and, the latchkey, which we're not necessarily meeting with tremendous success, but I do think that affects how we view fatherhood. But in terms of the the question you ask and listening, and one of the guys in my book, a guy named Luane Jones, is what I think of as a great example of a modern dad. He's a young guy in his 30s. He drives a delivery truck for a living. His wife owns her own hair salon, and as he says in the book, he said it took some getting used to, but she makes more money than he does. So they have an arrangement whereby he is doing what he says, the quote unquote more motherly things. He picks the kids up from school, does a lot of the housework, does a lot of the cooking and the child care, because his wife, he really supports his wife in owning her business and realizes that just makes sense for their family. He captures what I think is the dilemma. He wants a close connection with his kids, and because he's been put in this situation, or agreed to be in this situation, where he's picking up his daughter from school, he's realizing that this modern fatherhood now allows him the opportunity to connect with his daughter in different ways. And one of those ways is he's able to listen to what's going on with her, because he picks her up from school and he can see when she's, unhappy or distressed, or, he gets to see the whole sort of range of what her experience is day to day. And he's made it a priority to listen to her, even though his reflex, his gut knee-jerk reaction when he sees that she's having an issue or says that she's having a problem, is to give her a lecture. He's realized by spending so much time with her that if he just really listens to her, he can actually learn more about what's going on, and that he can begin to build the kind of more of a dialogue with his daughter, and that she doesn't necessarily want to hear a lecture. And I hear this from kids all the time when I go to schools and meet with parents and meet with dads, and I also meet with kids, and they say all the time what they don't want is for dad to lecture and for dad to always make everything into a teachable moment. Instead, they want to be heard, they want to be listened to. And I have activities in the book that help dads, with this. Very simple activities for how to be a better listener, which builds connection.
In The Modern Dad's Dilemma, the practice of reparenting gives dads a kind of a do-over. Explain reparenting and how it helps parent and child.
Reparenting is just the idea that, kind of going back to this legacy concept, that we really as adults have to give to ourselves what we didn't get. And reparenting is really taking care of the parts of your, the little boy, if you will, inside that didn't get the attention or the need or the love that he necessarily wanted. For example, in the book, I have one of the guys, Juan is his name, Juan Lasada, is in the chapter on legacy, and he talks about how he loved his dad, yet his dad was not able to really give him the attention and the praise for that any child deserves. Juan writes these 3 letters to his dad, and this is really in a nutshell the process of reparenting. He writes the first letter, "Dear Dad, here's what it was like growing up with you, the good, the bad, the positive, and the negative." The second letter he writes from his dad's perspective, and that is what he imagines his dad would say if he got that first letter. "Dear son, I thank you for bringing that up. I think you're crazy," or "I think you missed the point, you blah, blah, blah." Whatever what you imagine your dad would say in response to your first letter. And And then the third letter is from the dad's perspective as well, and that is what you would hope your dad would say in response to that first letter. And that's sort of where the healing is, and that's where the reparenting is. It's through letter writing. It's a way of giving yourself the kind of praise or love or whatever it was that you didn't get from your own parents. It's a way of giving it to yourself.
One last question, we'll let you go. The book outlines a sort of, I guess, a roadmap for approaching fatherhood called the Dad's Vision Statement. Tell us about the Dad's Vision Statement and its importance.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great sort of nice place to wrap. That's actually the beginning of the book is the first practice. And there's 6 practices that are, as a whole, they do kind of progress from one to the next, but really the book is written in a way that dads can kind of dip in and dip out wherever your sort of, interest or need is. But the book really starts out with what I think is fundamental, a first step for any dad, whether he's a new dad or a seasoned dad, and that is to create what I call a dad's vision statement. And that is like a company has a mission statement. We've all sort of been through the, what a mission statement is, and oftentimes they don't necessarily mean much. But in this case, a dad's vision statement is very simply to get dad thinking proactively, what is the kind of relationship you're trying to build? What are you doing as a fatherhood? And the question that I ask dads to answer is this: 20 years from now, imagine your children are grown up and they're being interviewed for a documentary film about their relationship with you, or a documentary film about fathers. What do you hope 20 years from now your kids say to that interviewer about your relationship? What do you hope they say, and what do you hope they don't say to that interviewer about your relationship? So I hope they say that, Dad was a really great listener and paid attention to who I was. What I hope they don't say is that Dad was, he was there, but he wasn't really there. He was there in body, but not there in mind, and these kinds of things. And then the follow-up to those questions are, what are your priorities then today as a dad? In other words, if this is what you hope they say and what you hope they don't say, what are your priorities specifically today? So my priority might be listening, and my priority is also to show up and make sure that I have dinner with my kids, at least 4 nights a week. That'd be an example of a priority. And then lastly, what are some things that you need to change? And that might be, I need to really work on getting some skills for being a better listener, or I need to make sure that I change, my work schedule, whatever it is. So the vision statement as a whole is really a way of kind of creating your own roadmap for building the kind of relationship you want with your kids.